Hello, this is Lilian, welcoming you to the 1930th edition of the Enfield Talking Newspaper, Dateline the 21st of November 2013. The readers this week are Joan, Beverley, Rod and myself, Lilian, with Cassandra and Colin on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Boulon, Harry Brewer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. If you are experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 0208 805 6578. She is your listener's representative and she will be pleased to help you. I have two special news items which I will read to you now. The first one is a notice about the Enfield Vision Christmas Party, which is on the 2nd of December at the Park Avenue Disability Centre. And it will be from 7 until 10 p.m, not 9 p.m. as mentioned last week. So that is a correction. The next one is about Sylvia Chapman's dance. Sylvia Chapman is organising a dance at the Civic Centre on the 26th of November 2013 from 7 p.m. till 10:30. The tickets are £14 and include drinks and a buffet meal. For more information and tickets, ring Sylvia on 07535 624 915. It is always such a good evening, so don't delay. And now over to Joan, who will read the first item of local news.
The maternity ward at Chase Farm Hospital closes today after a final protest was shut down by the police. When Enfield Borough Council's application for a judicial review against the downgrading in maternity and accident and emergency facilities at that hospital was turned down at the High Court last week, campaigners staged one final bid to delay the closures. A group of 100 people, led by the North East London Council of Action, known as NELCA, chanted, "Save Chase Farm, occupy now," as they made their way towards the hospital on Thursday in the hope of occupying the maternity ward. Funny thing. But on arrival, police prevented the protesters from entering the site. Campaign Group Secretary Bill Rogers said, "The reason why the hospital has prevented us from making a protest inside is fear. Because we haven't given our names and addresses to the police, we are unable to enter. We aren't going in there to cause trouble and stop services. We are there to make a point that this hospital's services cannot close." The maternity unit is due to close today, with A&E following on December the 9th. Services will be relocated to North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, and Barnet Hospital. Speaking after the High Court ruling, which rejected the Council's claim that insufficient urgent care facilities were in place before the closures could take place, Council leader Doug Taylor said, "Enfield Council is bitterly disappointed that it has been unable to overturn this flawed and shameful decision through the legal process." However, Councillor Taylor refused to give up on Chase Farm Hospital and said he would continue to scrutinise healthcare in our borough. He said, "Enfield Council will continue to strive to protect and improve hospital and community services in Enfield. We will monitor the quality of healthcare and test whether the premises and promises made by the Secretary of State and local health services are honoured. We do not believe the views of residents have been heeded or their concerns addressed. Instead, the Secretary of State and the NHS have reneged on promises to improve primary care and then shamefully steamrolled through their plans to close the A&E department at Chase Farm Hospital. Kate Wilkinson and Kieran McGregor of the Save Chase Farm Hospital group said they were devastated by the decision made. They said, promises to improve healthcare in Enfield have been broken repeatedly. The law should be used to protect the vulnerable and hold decision makers to account. This did not happen today. If Jeremy Hunt, the Secretary of State for Health, feels it is not his responsibility to provide adequate healthcare provision for the residents of Enfield, Lewisham, Ealing, or anywhere else, we joined with other healthcare campaigners in calling for his immediate resignation. As part of the changes, the emergency department at Chase Farm will be converted into an urgent care centre, which will be open for 12 hours every day, with services for those with life-threatening illnesses or injuries provided at Barnet and North Middlesex hospitals. The UCC specialises in treating those with urgent but not life-threatening illnesses and injuries, such as minor fractures, strains and sprains. Dr. Nick Losef, Medical Director for the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Clinical Strategy, said, the NHS has been carefully planning these changes to provide better, safer care for local residents in Barnet, Enfield and Haringey for many years. The changes have the overwhelming support of local clinicians. The hospitals have made it clear that they are ready to proceed, and GPs in all three boroughs agree that they should be implemented now. These changes will improve the quality and safety of the services our residents receive. Now here's the Advertiser comment. Its headline says, "Uncertain Future After Downgrade." So today marks the start of the first phase of the downgrade to Chase Farm Hospital. For years this has been fought against. For years campaigners, politicians and the media were left with many unanswered questions about how it was all going to work out. Well, it's time to say well done to the health chiefs. You got your way, in most part without providing residents with the reassurances that they justly demanded. Which means that from today and going on past feedback, women in labour will be unsure whether they will be able to go to the hospital at which they've chosen to give birth, because quite frankly, it could be overrun with mums-to-be having contractions. As MP Nick Tabar said, the health chiefs have now got to prove themselves right, and let us hope that the closed-door culture of the NHS, which has been endemic across the country from mid-Staffordshire to Basildon, does not man itself in Enfield, because if this goes wrong, a reversal of today's move needs to be put on the cards pronto.
A school in the borough is fighting allegations that senior management racially discriminated against a member of staff. Giving evidence at an employment tribunal in Watford on Monday morning, school electrician Philip Dominique told the court that he believed he had been stopped from carrying out his full professional duties at Broomfield School in Wilmer Way, Arnos Grove, for 3 months as a result of institutional racism which is systemic throughout the school. His grievance with senior staff at the school is that they would not have prevented him from carrying out his full duties had he been white. The tribunal heard that on February 14th, Mr. Dominic was asked not to carry out his full duties as an electrician, as the school had become aware that its insurance might not cover him if he performed electrical repairs and renovations on the buildings. The school told Mr. Dominic it would have to ensure his qualifications were fully compliant with the requirements of the insurance company. He was retained on full pay and was asked by school management to focus on his general duties. After all qualifications and certificates had been checked, Mr. Dominic was able to resume his full duties on May 3rd. Cross-examining Mr. Dominic on why he believed the delay was due to racial discrimination, Gordon Menzies, counsel for Enfield Council, read out an email exchange between his line manager and local authority specialists in which his boss was pushing for a speedy resolution to the question. "Why is she trying to chase this up to get it resolved sooner?" Mr. Menzies asked. "She's trying to get you back on full duties as soon as possible. You have made a very serious allegation of race discrimination. What evidence do you have for that?" Mr. Dominic insisted that in his witness statement, which was not read out at the hearing but was read in detail by Tribunal Judge Camilla Palmer, he had outlined ongoing instances of continued acts of racial discrimination in the course of the year. Stressing that he was not listened to as he should have been within the school, Mr. Dominic said, "When the heating broke down, it was caused by a water leak. It took longer to repair because of asbestos as well as the boiler breaking down. All issues that I had brought to their attention. A decision was due yesterday afternoon, but at the time of going to print, no outcome had been reached."
A community group says it has won a 6-year battle to stop GPs ripping off patients with higher phone charges. The Enfield Over 50s Forum has been battling to prevent the use of the non-geographic numbers for patients to call doctor surgeries for appointments, test results, or repeat prescriptions. Dialing 0844 numbers can cost 4p more than a standard local call from a BT landline, and around 40p a minute using a mobile phone. David Geddes, head of primary care for NHS England, has told GPs who continue to use the numbers that they will be held accountable. Forum President Monty Meth said, "I'm delighted that Enfield is probably the first borough in London to be clear of this pernicious practice, which allowed GPs to collect a slice of the higher 0844 phone charges." The battle began in 2007 when 13 Enfield surgeries switched their phone numbers without any intervention from NHS England, who said they could not force a reversal back to the 020 number. Mr. Meth said, "Patients told us they were paying as much as £3 after going through the various options before getting an appointment. One lady, who was working, said that because of the surgery's opening times, it had cost her £6 using her mobile. It has taken us more than 6 years to expose and bring back into line those GP practices that were, in effect, charging patients to make an appointment in clear breach of NHS principles which stipulate health services should be universally available and free at the point of need." Mr. Geddes said, "If GPs are not doing everything they can to change, then they are not providing an equitable service and are in breach of their contracts. We expect our teams to use their local understanding and authority to make sure appropriate action is taken wherever GPs are not making this a priority." Research showed that some GPs felt unable to change things because of real or perceived contracting problems, so we are aiming to bust some of the contracting myths and support practices to make sure their patients get the best service. NHS England says it will continue to monitor progress and will audit practices around telephone services again in 2014.
After 2 years of trying every route possible to ban spitting in the borough, campaigners now know the exact date when the habit will officially become a criminal offence. The new legislation, which will come into force on December the 8th, is the first anti-spitting bylaw to be introduced by any local authority in England. It was given the official go-ahead by the Department of Communities and Local Government in July. According to Cabinet member for the Environment, Chris Bond, existing litter patrols, which are already equipped with cameras, will enforce the new law. But he insisted that no extra cameras would be installed specifically to try and catch people out. Anyone caught spitting could be fined as much as £500. Anti-spitting campaigners in the borough have been lobbying the government to rubber stamp the bylaw since 2011. Council chiefs threw their weight behind the ban after the Enfield Over 50s Forum presented a 4,800 signature petition to the local authority. Life president of the forum, Monty Meth, is thrilled that the official ban is just weeks away from coming into force. He told the Advertiser, "I am pleased that at long last Whitehall has given the go-ahead to ban this brand of antisocial behaviour. I think that this is a vindication of the forum's petition, which attracted nearly 5,000 signatures. I also think we have to thank the all-party support for getting all politicians behind this ban. Despite concerns that the outright ban on the habit might strike some residents as heavy-handed, Mr. Bond insisted that in fact stamping out spitting once and for all would actually bring the community closer together. He explained that the ban would be based around an awareness campaign in schools and public places, explaining the exact reasons why it was considered such a disgusting habit. "The day it succeeds is the day you don't give out a fine," said Mr. Bond. "I'm happy for the residents of Enfield, and as ever, I am glad to be of assistance to Enfield residents. I am just sorry it has taken so long."
Now here is Nick Dubois, the MP, giving us his view from Westminster. The headline is "Cross-Party Campaigning Needs to Continue if we are to improve health care." The decision in the High Court this month to back the downgrading of services at Chase Farm Hospital right was extremely disappointing. GPs in Enfield approved the plans to replace the accident and emergency department with an urgent care centre. I believe Enfield Council was right to challenge this in court, and I gave the Labour administration my full backing. That this judicial review was untimely lost does not mean it was the wrong decision. People in Enfield expect their local political representatives to fight this all the way. Indeed, people in Enfield can be proud of the way we've campaigned to save Chase Farm. We have done so over many years. So many marches, petitions, letters, challenges in Parliament and in the courts. You name it, we've tried it. Conservative and Labour councillors locally have continued to put party politics aside and present a united front on Chase Farm. While the fight for A&E at Chase Farm is now over, a new fight for better healthcare services in Enfield has just begun. By continuing the cross-party consensus we have achieved locally, we can go into that fight even stronger. Let's not forget that within 1 mile between the east and west of the borough, the differences in life expectancy is 12 years. The provision of primary care is at best patchy in places. We achieved a real win for Enfield in January when the borough's 3 MPs, myself, Andy Love, and David Burrows, and Doug Taylor, the leader of Enfield Council, successfully lobbied the Public Health Minister for a 10% increase in health funding, among the highest increases for any local authority in the country. The extra £1.2 million we secured took Enfield's allocation to £12.9 million for 2013 to 14, and is real evidence of what a cross-party approach can achieve. While I still firmly believe that Chase Farm Hospital should have an A&E unit, and I don't regret telling the Prime Minister that we in Enfield feel utterly let down, there are new battles that need to be fought and won. I want to see much better access to GPs, improvements in the quality of primary care, and help for people to lead longer, healthier lives. With politicians working together and with the help of residents and local GPs, we can achieve this.
Enfield in North East London is set to be hit by a fresh wave of protests during the next week over proposed cuts to cleaners' working hours. Under current proposals, around 60 cleaners will see their contracts cut from 51 weeks a year to 39 from January to 14, translating into a 23% pay cut for the lowest paid cleaners. The protests come after talks held on Friday between the college, the GMB union and Ocean, the contractor which employs the staff, failed to break the deadlock. The college and Ocean are showing complete and utter contempt with the staff. They refuse to allow them in the room to discuss their own terms and conditions, said Steve Sweeney, the GMB's regional organiser. To be paying the cleaners the minimum wage in one of the poorest boroughs in London is an absolute disgrace, and there was no consultation. Cornell has stated that the new cleaning rotas were a necessity as it faced a budget cut of £3.17 million and sought to reduce expenditure without affecting teaching. A college spokeswoman said, "The meeting on Friday was not productive. However, the college would like to meet the union representative and representatives from the contractor again to try to resolve this conflict," she added. The protest will take place at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow outside the college's centre in Hertford Road, Ponders End, and at 8:30 a.m. next Wednesday outside the campus in Tottenham High Road.
A man has denied attempting to have sex with a sheep. Paul Lovell, 61, of Magpie Close, Enfield, appeared at Wood Green Crown Court last Wednesday after allegedly being caught with the animal on September the 4th, 2013 in Whitewebb's Lane, Enfield, next to the Tottenham Hotspur training ground. He faced charges of being in an indecent manner by trying to commit a sexual act with a sheep and attempting to encourage the sheep to perform a sexual act, and intentionally exposing his genitals in public. The IT worker has denied the charges and is due to appear at the court in Lordship Lane, Edmonton, on January 27, 2014, for a full hearing. He has been bailed on the condition that he does not return to the road where the suspected event took place.
I have Monty Meth's column. He is the life president of Enfield Over 50s Forum, and it's entitled "Big Freeze is Hurting Pensioners." Now it's official. We're on the path to prosperity and the recovery has taken hold. Headlines scream inflation is down, but food prices went up 4.3%. And please don't mention rising fuel bills. Our long-term plan for Britain is working, says Prime Minister David Cameron, yet last year average earnings rose by 0.8%, the lowest since data was first compiled in 2001. A record near 30 million people are working, but 8 million are part-timers, and 965,000 16 to 24-year-olds are still jobless. So don't think the good times are around the corner. We need to do more with less, not just now, but permanently, adds Mr. Cameron. What this means came last week in a consultation from the Department of Work and Pensions. They want to make it easier for employers to cut their costs by ditching annual pension rises linked to the cost of living, end pensions being paid to surviving widows, and end pensions linked to final salaries. It is a frightening outlook for today's workforce, who face being deprived of the inflation-protected, salary-linked pension scheme that many of my generation enjoy in giving us a pretty secure retirement. This frozen pensions concept is an ominous warning for today's 12 million pensioners, as there's still no guarantee from the Chancellor they will be increased with inflation after 2015. And it's a sorry outlook for the 565,000 British pensioners who've had their pensions frozen at the rate it was when they left our shores to live in Canada, Australia and South Africa, while 650,000 other pensioners who emigrated to France, Spain or the US still get the same annual increase as we do. So while we have a basic state pension of £110.15 a week, a 90-year-old veteran retiring to Canada in 1988 still receives a £41 weekly pension. Frozen pensions are a menace. We have been warned. We have now reached the end of side one for this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side two.